Welcome to episode 8 of Wrestling Cards Unabridged. Took a little hiatus for Christmas, but now we're back. And got a whole bunch of episodes lined up, but we're going to start with something kind of unique and something that might not be even considered 100% cards, but I think they definitely fall in the card sticker realm and collectible. And I think that a lot of people who collect wrestling cards would be interested in this. And so I'm sorry if this is something that's not your interest as a wrestling card collector, but it's something that's kind of unique and I wanted to take a look at. And that is Prism stickers. And pretty much from about the 1984, 1985, 1986 era is where you're going to find most of these. And there's many different styles and everything else. And there's a lot to get. And these have gone way up in value. I believe there's been a couple of collectors out there who have kind of started going after them a little heavier. And pretty much that's the way things go up in value. So most of these I got in one purchase, which was really exciting. Actually, honestly, it's my best wrestling card purchase ever, and this wasn't even the reason why, and someday we'll get into that. But it came with a whole bunch of these stickers, and we start with the AWA, and right here on the top row you see Gorgeous Jimmy Garvin and Mystery Electricity Steve Regal. So this is a tag team, and quite notably, they actually were tag team champions. But Regal has the belt, but he's probably, I'm going to guess that's probably more likely the light heavyweight championship. He and Rock and Roll Buck Zumhoff, who I believe is now in jail, were fought over it a lot. They had a pretty good rivalry in the AWA in about 1985, but these two won the belts together with their manager Precious, who was more, I think, is kind of supposed to be Jimmy Garvin's main squeeze, but then would manage the tag team, and they won. It would have been September of '85, late September. I want to say I'm not even going to guess. It was late September, and what happened was that the Freebirds came in and interfered, and that's how. So it was not a clean victory by any means, but it was like a shocker. It was one of the most shocking victories because the Road Warriors, September 1985, were just running over everybody. They were AWA champs and possibly NWA champs right around that time too. I'm not sure when the NWA championship. I'd have to look a little bit closer into that. But these are the two that beat them. Like I said, their manager is Precious, but I think it's kind of interesting because here you have a Jimmy Garvin card, Gorgeous Jimmy Garvin, and he just has his cards. I don't know if you can try to get the lighting right. It's not my fault. So a solid. He's got a little facsimile autograph too up at top, and the "It's not my fault" quote. So it's a quote card, one of his famous lines, and a full card otherwise, and kind of the portrait type shot. And then but Steve Regal actually has, and actually what we're going to find out is I'm going to go right down here right away. There's two Steve Regal cards that are very similar, but one of them has Mr. Electricity, which was his nickname, Mr. Electricity Steve Regal. Not to be confused with, he's not the same guy who wrestles as Steve Regal, who would later become William Regal, because I believe William Regal's name was Steve Regal in WCW. This is not the same, but this is a light heavyweight competitor. He actually did show up in the WWF late 80s, maybe early 90s as pretty much enhancement talent, so you can find a couple matches with him. And he was the light heavyweight champion. He's probably about 220, but also take the jumps. So then we have two full shots, and they're the exact same shot, exact same background and everything, but one says Mystery Electricity and the other one says Steven Regal. It really kind of makes you wonder how many of these Prism vending stickers were out there and made, because if they made two exactly the same of Steve Regal, I wouldn't be surprised if there was another one of Steve Regal that was totally different too. That was like a totally different action shot and background. So, and then we're gonna get into some more examples later. But like I said, I definitely do not have the entire collection, and I'd just love to see some more. And ironically, talking about the Road Warriors, this one's kind of an interesting one because this one's Hawk versus Arn Anderson. So here we have I'm going to call this more like a highlight card. That's probably not the best term for it, but you have a match. So they actually tell you who the match is in the black, and I believe we aren't going to see that too many more times through my collection, but I wouldn't be surprised if there's some more out there. This would have had to been NWA, because I don't think Hawk and Arn Anderson ever wrestled in the AWA, and this would have actually probably been pretty close to that same time. So you're getting vending stickers out of those gumball. I'll call them a gumball machine. That's probably, I think you know what I'm talking about. I'm guessing they cost $0.25 back then, and probably rolled up. And so some of these, if you can get them in nice condition, that's pretty cool. But just all over the place in who they have. And we're gonna find that as we turn the page here. We're gonna stick with the Road Warriors. I really like this one. It's just the Road Warriors, and there's a road and I'm gonna kind of zoom in on that. Actually, I think you can see that. Road and Cactus behind them. They have the tag team belts at this point. And you see the Road Warriors. That's one of my favorites right there. And here's another one. But this one's the Collegiate of Doom. They still have the belts. And they are Paul Ellering in the middle. Red background. And still Animal, if you notice, has the same face paint for both of them. Hawk does too, but Animal's face paint would change a lot more than Hawk's. Hawk pretty much had the Joker from once he got established. He pretty much kept that almost every time. And then you have Paul Ellering in the middle, but they're called the Legion of Doom at this point. So once again, two very different stickers, but probably came out pretty similar times. So just, it gave you more stickers to collect, and so the kids would keep buying them from the machines. And so it's kind of a neat thought. So those are two of my favorites. Sticking with the AWA, you have Sergeant Slaughter. And this was kind of neat. This one, actually, if you can read that, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. So you have Sergeant Slaughter card with the Pledge of Allegiance around the background, the American flag background as well. And we'll go right over to this Sergeant Slaughter card too. I'm going to try to get the shadow out of the way so you can see this one too. This one has Sergeant Slaughter. The name is different. You actually have Slaughter on this one, Sergeant Slaughter. The background's the same. The color seems pretty much the same in almost every way. Sarge looks a little different in both pictures, but so it's just two more very unique cards, and it's just kind of interesting. But the heavy AWA, I mean, this would have to be Slaughter AWA time period at this point, so that's kind of where we're at there too. And I mean, these are really interesting, and I can see why they've become collectible now at this point in life. Next, we're going to go to the Tonga Kid. I've seen this one a few times out there, so this is a pretty, for these stickers, this one's pretty common. I don't think any of these stickers are really common. The Tonga Kid, he would go on to become Tama in the Islanders. It's not King Tonga, because King Tonga was Haku, but the Tonga Kid would become Tama in the Islanders. And so that was probably his best known stuff. He actually teamed up with Jimmy Superfly Snuka a few times, and I believe actually that would have been early WWF, because that would have been against when Snuka and Piper were having their big feud. And the most probably famous thing about that is when Piper hit Snuka with a coconut on Piper's pit. So the Tonga Kid would have teamed up with Snuka a little bit during that time too, probably against Piper and Orton or Piper and Orndorff. And so this one, it's kind of an interesting one because it shows him kind of flying through the jungle in essence on a kind of like a Tarzan approach. And I guess that's how they had the Tonga Kid back then. So, but still rather interesting here. So now we're going back to WWF though, rather than we just saw a whole bunch of AWA. And here's definitely WWF, the Wild Samoans, Afa and Sika, and just pretty much a basic sticker of them. And Afa and Sika, the Wild Samoans. That would put it, because when did the Wild Samoans break up? Probably in early 1985 to mid 1985. So you can get some dates here, and I wouldn't be surprised if they, because I know Sika even came back, and I think they might have had some connection yet. So you could actually have a sticker. They would have been popular enough that you could have had a sticker even after they were retired. And here we have a little different, and I don't know this one. I don't know if this one was. I've seen something like this before. So this is not the full card sticker. It's on card, and it's on the white card. I believe it's on its original card. And so it's just a totally different, and it's, I mean, I'll just be honest, it's not as nice as the other ones, but it's being that it is Jimmy Superfly Snuka, it's kind of neat. And So yeah, definitely not, because this one's definitely way more of a sticker. It doesn't even pass really as a card, except for, I think the only reason you can even pass it as a card is because it kind of matches all the other Prism stickers there are. So you have Jimmy Superfly Snuka, and like we had him teaming up with the Tonga Kid earlier. Snuka was interesting. He big feud with Piper. He was definitely, I'd call maybe the number 3. I mean, some people would probably even call him the number 2 face in WWF for a while, but I think he had some problems with maybe the drugs and stuff like that, so because then he left. He was part of the cartoon, but he really wasn't even there at the cartoon. I know that was a big problem at the time, and so, because he was in the corner of Hogan and Mr. T at WrestleMania 1, and he was popular too, and so that's kind of interesting. You got Tamina wrestling now in the WWE, and so his daughter and his son, also I don't know if he had any more than sons and daughters, but his son wrestled as Deuce in WWE with the tag team Deuce and Domino. Yes, because his son was Deuce and Domino was the other one. And here we have this one. I like this one, Larry Zbyszko. The only true living legend, as he would say. Weirdly, I'm going to zoom in a little bit. I don't think it looks very much like Larry Zbyszko. I mean, I guess you can kind of see it. I mean, this is Larry Zbyszko back in the 80s. That's not the way I would have quite pictured Larry Zbyszko. And it looks like it may be Satan behind him, or it's a monster that's symbolizing Satan. Larry Zbyszko, so one of the top bad guys of that time, AWA. Hated Nick Bockwinkel. Who else did he hate back then? I think he hated Snuka, Sergeant Slaughter, Rick Martel when he was the champion. And so, but kind of a cool sticker, yeah, aside from the fact that it doesn't really look like Larry Zbyszko, but kind of a cool one. Let's keep it going. We're going to go to the High Flyers. Greg Gagne and Jumpin' Jim Brunzell, and tag team champions in the AWA. Greg Gagne, of course, the son of Vern Gagne, the owner of the company. Jumpin' Jim Brunzell would later become famous with the Killer Bees. I think if you look at his career, he had very good success with both. He probably got just a little more fame with the Killer Bees because of the WWE TV, and I think WWE was just a little better, but he probably, if you look at it from a wrestling standpoint, he probably had more success in the High Flyers. Tag team champions of the AWA, and team up with Greg Gagne, who was a big time. They were both big time. I don't think Brunzell ever was a heel, and so that was kind of interesting. And so, yeah, there you have the High Flyers. A lot of them are similar. You have the ring, you have them jumping out of the ring, you have the stars, and you kind of have they look, but they're all unique, and they're all very, I can see why people collect these. Here is someone who, AWA champion, Rick Martel, and would go on WWE's, actually part of the Can-Am Connection, and then part of Strike Force, and then eventually the model Rick Martel. So here, this one's kind of interesting. He's got 3 different action shots in the middle of his, otherwise it's just a pose, and it's just the plain red and Rick Martel. And so it seems like AWA, and even from what I've seen with other stuff, AWA always seems to be the most prominent of these stickers, and so I guess that's, and I mean, it could be too where I come from. I live in the Midwest, so it could be that, but these, like I said, these were bought, so this was not necessarily from my collection as a youngster, and you never know then, so I don't know, but like I said, I think I've seen AWA these more than anything else. And here we have Baron von Raschke. I see him every year at the Hall of Fame in Waterloo, Iowa, and actually last year I sat with him and his wife at the, no, actually it was him and his daughter at the table last year, and really nice guy. And so, and he teamed up with the Road Warriors for a while. He was part of Paul Jones' army in the NWA. He had just all sorts. He was a really, really talented wrestler, and still part of the wrestling world today. So this one's cool because it's just this claw, which is what he's famous for. He had the face claw. What he was famous for, they say claw, but then they give him his name. It's pretty much other than that. So that's the thing. You have all these different styles of card, and that's all we have on that page. So we have 2 more that didn't make this book. So these were separate. but I just wanted to include them, and I think I have a couple more that I probably wasn't able to find today. Both of these are the Junkyard Dog. This is meaner than a Junkyard Dog, which is kind of unique. Full sticker, got the background. So there you go back to WWF. Junkyard Dog, I think, was the second most popular wrestler during the Hogan era. I mean, second most popular face. Obviously, Roddy Piper was popular too, but Junkyard Dog's second most popular face. He has his traditional chain, and so you have Junkyard Dog, which was his name, but then it's kind of a slogan too, meaner than a Junkyard Dog, so kind of interesting there. The other one's going to also be Junkyard Dog. This one's a little more, or actually it's a prismy in a different way, as you can tell from the reflection. And this one, kind of back to that first one, this is similar to the Arn Anderson Hawk match, where it has the black thing, like just black Junkyard Dog like that. So here you have WWF having something similar there. Maybe we can take you back. Let's take you back and get the two comparisons. I think they're pretty similar on the nameplate, or the, I'll call it the nameplate. I mean, you know what I'm talking about. And yeah, otherwise we just have He's got the traditional chain. That's all it is, though. It's just Junkyard Dog. You got the picture, you got the two colors, and the Junkyard Dog. So this is just a short, small collection of prisms. Like I said, I think I have a couple more. I certainly don't have anywhere close to all of them. I don't know. I don't really consider myself a huge prism sticker collector. I think they're neat. Right now, they're just, I mean, I'd have to pick them up like a flea market or something. I'm not going to bid what they're going for online usually, and so it's just, but at the same time, I do think they're neat. And, well, part of the problem is, and this is where people are going to run into problems, is it's like, if you're a set collector, what are you collecting? And most everything that you're a set collector, because and I know there's some really good wrestling websites out there, wrestling card websites, and they do a really good job of listing all the sets and the listing everything that's involved in a set. But at the same time, it's like they're gonna get. I mean, who knows? I mean, I haven't actually looked at I haven't looked at some of the main ones, if they even consider these cards. I would assume they do in some of the sites. And then also like today, maybe they'll be adding one or two of mine because they've never seen them before. And I mean, I encourage them. That's great. But then, yeah, so you're constantly adding. So how you know if you ever get the set? Because even if they add now one or two, there's still probably some that no one knows about, or at least that no one in the wrestling card community knows about. So then you really don't know about the set. So it's kind of one of those things that you're just, as most collectors, you're just going to be collecting as many as you can. And the ones that you like, if you see ones that you really like, I don't know who I would like to see. I mean, yeah, well, just kind of think. I'm sure, actually, because I don't think, I did not have a single Hulk Hogan one today. I think I have a Hulk Hogan one someplace, so I'll have to look for that. Actually, I'm almost positive I have a Hulk Hogan one, but it's more like that Jimmy Snuka one too, so that's a little different. So I know I have one there. I'm not sure if I have the full Hulk Hogan Prism ones. I'll have to look for that. So you're gonna have that, and then who else was back then that we haven't seen yet? Macho Man Randy Savage is gonna be a little early for him. He would have been around during this time. He really didn't start taking off until late 1985, but you put him with Elizabeth, you could have something there. You got Roddy Piper, of course, so you could have some Piper collectors. I don't think there's going to be many of managers like Bobby Heenan or someone like Classy Freddie Blassie, Jimmy Hart. I would love one of King Kong Bundy, and I wouldn't be surprised if there's one of him. He would have been stuck he came over WrestleMania 1, of course, fought S.G. Jones WrestleMania 1, but Thanksgiving of 84, he was Boom Boom Bundy in the AWA. I don't recall ever seeing any Boom Boom Bundy stuff. Jerry Blackwell would be another one. That's who Boom Boom Bundy tagged with in Thanksgiving 1984 in the AWA. So that's the thing. There's so many potentials. Ric Flair. I've seen Ric Flair Prism stickers before. And so, I think one was like this, wrestling in the match like that. You would have had Magnum TA. We have the Road Warriors from the NWA. You have the rest of the Four Horsemen. You have someone like Rugged Ronnie Garvin. I guess it was just Ronnie Garvin in the NWA at that time. Rock and Roll Express, Midnight Express, and something. If there was a Jim Cornette one, I'd be all over that. But I've never seen a Jim Cornette one, and I can't imagine one. But there could be some surprises. And then you go back to the AWA and you're still missing people like Stan Hansen. You're missing people like, well, Nick Bockwinkel, Kurt Hennig before he was Mr. Perfect, Scott Hall before he was Razor Ramon, and even someone like Vern Gagne. So who knows where this set could lead. It's just kind of an interesting set. I do consider it part of my card collection. Wrestling cards, I think they're great, and although I'm not really pursuing them, I'll always pick one up when I think when there's a reasonable deal, or if there's one just that I really, really like. And it'd be really nice to see some more, and I'll probably I'll look for some. I have seen some that aren't for sale, but are just that other people have displayed in the various form, and that's always fun to see too, and to look at other collections and to see what's out there. So maybe this is the first time you've ever seen them, and if you have any, thanks for sticking around this long in the video. We're gonna have like I said, I have a few more ideas for videos in the future. It's more just finding the time to do them, and I'm still working on finishing up the studio too, so I have a better place to do them and can do some stuff. So leave comments below. Follow us on Twitter, Wrestling UNAB. That's Wrestling Unabridged, but just UNAB. And I'm gonna try to get some more social media stuff going too, but one step at a time.